Emily, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Vince Rocco.
Pleasure, Vince.
Good to see you. You know, I'm excited to talk to you actually, at very last minute though, but I'm really excited to talk to you because we share a lot in common, and that is new condo developments, for example. And as you were indicating to me before we started shooting, that the developers have to understand, and this is sometimes where I get involved, because from a company's perspective, you know, we work with, or they work with a developer on the back end, helping them with the financing, helping them with the overall, you know, floor plan design and building design, et cetera. But then I come in when it's almost time to sell, and I want to make sure that my sell job is as easy as it can be. And one of the things I always think about is design. Are the floor plans done well? Are they laid out properly? Are they staged properly? And then lastly, art. If people are anything close to what I'm like, art makes me smile.
Right.
And art makes me happy. So explain to us, to the listeners today, exactly what it is you do or what you provide for these developers.
Sure. Well, you know, unfortunately, the way that you positioned it, lastly, the art, they have to start thinking about the art first, because that makes your job pull a development project over the finish line. And that's really what makes it a success, right? You do have to do all that back end and all, but it all comes down to rentals, sales, etc. So what I do is work with a lot of major developers, everyone from Alexandria Real Estate in the life science space, Greystar in both life science, multifamily and condominiums, equity residential, Toll Brothers City Living. All of these developers have now embraced something that's taken quite a bit for them to realize. Art is experiential. Art is the one way they can relate to their audience universally. And because real estate has become such a global commodity, particularly in this country.
Yes, absolutely.
The rest of the world is a little bit more art savvy than a lot of, you know, the regular folk walking around the United States, other than the New York, Miami, Los Angeles area.
Let me ask you something. So, and I'm very in tune with it, you know, Art Basel every year. I mean, it's a very popular event that most people go to. But from a developer perspective, because you're 100% correct, the developer has to see the artwork and all the design stuff really up front when they're planning out and designing. How difficult is it for you, or complicated is it for you, when you're actually coming in maybe after the fact and have to hammer home that fact that, hey, artwork is important. Hey, we really need to get this done. For all these reasons, do you find a lot of pushback? And then if you do, how do you get over that threshold?
Well, so the answer is in two parts. When I'm brought in sort of last minute, it's just like trying to retrofit plumbing or something, right? So now all of the big possibilities sometimes are gone. But I work with what I have, and I think that my success has to do with taking a project that did not have the longest lead time, showing them the possibilities, making it a success. And then in the case of equity residential, over 10 years ago, they did their first development from the ground up in Chelsea at 10th and 23rd. And they said, we're in the heart of the art world, we probably should put some art in the building. And they did that.
What a novel thought, right?
Right, but it was also last minute, and they had a very small budget to do it. That was the seeing is believing moment for them.
Right.
And from that, they have a line item now for art. So I get brought in 2.5 years before it's developed, which
Perfect.
is, you know, that's the symbiosis, right? Now we're all getting it, we're all on the same team. And I work around floor plans and with architects and interior designers.
I was going to ask you, so how involved do you get with the actual floor plans? Because that makes a lot of difference from an artistic mind or perspective, right? Floor plans are great, floor plans flow, people become interested or more interested, and then you come in and do your art on top of all that. So you get actually involved in the layouts of the floor plates and the floor plans at all, or no?
Well, I have a bit of an education now in construction because I really do have to understand.
Tell me about it.
How much of a weight load a floor can handle if I'm putting a sculpture, what the setbacks are, ADA compliance, all of that. So, and I think that also helps me as an art advisor. I have to be able to speak their language. They have to know that I understand what they're dealing with, right? So that we can make something really great happen.
Right.
And it goes way beyond hanging paintings. That's on a much smaller scale.
Right.
I have recently completed in Boston for Samuel's development, a 200-foot mural that started on the outside of the building and went all the way into the interior. That required plaster, prepping, and a world-class artist from Portugal named Vils to jackhammer into it. So there's a lot of production and logistics that takes place. And to your point before, that's all when they bring me in early. To try to do that last minute, even if they have the wall, it's like, okay, you already have your curtain wall up of glass. How are we going to do this?
Right. Talk to us a little bit about your business, okay? How you started in the industry to begin with, a little bit about what your company is all about, and then obviously we know where you try and be successful with developers and other places as well. But talk to us a little bit about where you come from, how you started, and how your business has grown, and what your business entails.
Well, Vince, I'm a kid from Staten Island. And when I was on Staten Island, all I wanted to do was get out of Staten Island. All my friends went
We're paisanos.
Yeah. All my friends went to these big universities like Michigan State, and I wanted to go into the city. So I went to Pace. I was a finance major. I wanted to own my own seat on the New York Stock Exchange. Life happens.
Aggressive goals.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I was a single mom, so a lot of my Wall Street dreams kind of got derailed. But in my very early 20s, my son and I had just bought a townhouse, and I was in an art gallery and I saw this Picasso etching, and I wanted to buy it, and I had no furniture, but I couldn't stop thinking of this. I convinced the dealer in New York on 72nd and Madison to let me pay it off over time. So from going into the gallery every week to pay him, I got immersed in the art world. I couldn't believe the joy and the excitement of all of these artists and the paintings, and it was all new to me. What I really found out, though, is that I couldn't afford any of it. But what I realized was there's such thing as the print world and editions.
Correct.
And I started a publishing company called Gotham Editions. I had built up friendships and relationships with artists from going to the galleries, and I offered them, let me do a print, I'll finance it, I'll pay for all of that. They would give me the image, I would pre-sell the print at, let's say, $600, and then when it came out, it would be $900, so I would essentially raise all the money, OPM, the whole edition.
Okay, let me ask you something, because you brought up a point in conversation here. When you are thinking about artwork, okay, do you buy the artwork first, install it in whatever room in your home you want it to be in, and then interior design it afterwards, or do you start with the furniture? This has always been a dilemma for me, because I love art, and I'm always kind of like, well, what do you recommend to people? Do you put it on the wall first and say, okay, now it looks like this, now it enhances my room, and so I need to decorate around it to more enhance it? Or do you do it the reverse? I don't really know the right way.
It's interesting. I was just interviewed by Architectural Digest regarding this exact point. And part of the question was about slow decorating. What do you do first? And that's different for each individual, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to art, you have to buy what you love.
Right.
When you buy what you love, it will fit into any environment. And it's not about matching the colors of the painting to the sofa. And unfortunately, there are interior designers that want to think that way, but that does not make the most interesting spaces. And if you look in the pages of Architectural Digest, you'll see how art really generates the entire feeling and mood of the space and drives it much more than the fabric does.
So well said, because I agree with you. I think the artwork is kind of like, the impetus for the mood in the room.
Right.
When you walk in, my opinion, if you don't look at that artwork and immediately say, wow, everything else kind of falls around that, right?
Yes.
Everything else sort of doesn't
Yes,
matter.
exactly.
That's what it is. And I think, based on your new development work, when you're in there and they ask you to do model homes, it's got to be the same way. We all know sometimes it's quick and easy, it's cheap to, furnish rooms in a model. That doesn't make sense.
No, it
right?
doesn't. I actually developed a leasing business because the developers that I work with do now understand that they have to have a model that feels like a home and puts artwork in it. So the developers lease artwork from me because the sales offices, disband when the project is sold.
Right.
So they don't need to have it, but like Toll Brothers City Living will do several models, and they'll lease artwork for about 18 months. And they start that very early. They typically will get their sales office like across the street while they're under construction. That helps really give the buyer a sense of making this a personal space and how they're going to live.
How sophisticated do you think most people are when it comes to good artwork? Can they tell the difference? I mean, obviously you're dealing with very high quality, very lovely pieces. How sophisticated is the typical naked eye to when it comes to appreciating something, whether it's in a hallway, whether it's in a model home, whether it's in your own private home? I mean, do more people, I would like to think that more people appreciate art than not. Your opinion on that?
Well,
I mean, we can go all over the map with that, really.
Yeah, I think that people's eyes are as sophisticated as what you put them in front of. And if you think about that, the problem becomes when you dumb down the content.
Right.
Then people, if that's all they see, that's all they know. If you can elevate a space and elevate someone's thinking. One of the spaces that I told you I was in is life science. Greystar is spending millions of dollars on a property in Massachusetts because they want to inspire the scientists that are going to save us from the next pandemic or the next catastrophe, so that when they come to work, they walk in and they're like, wow, they're excited. They have the suspension of disbelief like when they were a child, that anything is possible. Yeah. Like if you think about that and how far we've come to not making art just like wallpaper that you pass by, but to truly like have enough thought where you want to inspire, a generation of scientists, that's how their eyes become more sophisticated. And that's how, this sounds like a soapbox, but it really is how everything levels up.
Absolutely. We only have a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. I mean, I could talk to you for an hour because
Me too.
I'm really very interested in this. But tell us how someone out there can be in touch with you, with your company, developers, how they can be in touch with you, what you can provide, quickly to them. And we'll go from there, and hopefully we get to talk again. But I think you've got something really good to talk. Actually, you're going to come on my podcast, that's for sure. I'm making a mental note to do that. But tell us quickly how we can be in touch with your company, and what you can provide us across the board. Typical end user, models, developers, etc.
So it's easy to reach me at emilysantangelo.com. On my website, and
I love that name, Santangelo.
You can see, because like you said, we're paisanos. You can see a lot of the projects that I've done lately. My website's a little outdated, but you'll get the gist of it.
Right.
I do consultations on projects. I actually can project what kind of budget you need if you give me an idea. Like I'm doing hotels. I've just completed a Godfrey hotel.
That's interesting.
I've done the White Elephant Hotel in Palm Beach, the White Elephant Hotel in Nantucket. So I'm across the board willing to work on everything from little boutique projects to the very large scale. You know, I love to take on a challenge. I also work with private collectors.
That's key, private collectors. Anyway, we are so out of
Oh,
time.
well, it's been
My
a pleasure. Yeah,
talking to you. And
thank you.
honestly, you're going to come onto my podcast in the near future. I got your contact information.
Okay.
And we'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Cheers. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.